Chilly here with Sirius Stellus Moon, and this is Mars hour, Mercury night. Moon is second degree in Pisces, and we have ascendant 7 degrees Gemini. So Mercury 8 degrees Virgo, and we are a day before the eclipse. So while I'm caretaking for a video, let's dismantle some more toxic spirituality, which is at the fundamentals of the programming. After they rape and torture children, then they give them toxic spiritual ideas. And how does that affect the world? So, big shout out to Mspiracy. And she talks about the concept of remembrance. And she talks about Mary Magdalene. So I ran into the name Mary Magdalene when I was working for a sex positive self pleasure courses. Basically, we're diagnosing. Basically, we helped a lot of people that had candida and that yeast infection and other issues because we basically guided them to be more attuned to themselves, even during self pleasure, mainly with women. And for men, there was a course to please a woman, and then other men coaches that did or for penis people, let's put it that way. By the way, for people that didn't have the physical womb, the practices were also compatible. And one of my colleagues was working with Mary Magdalene. And so I spent the Passover by her. She lived in northern Israel, where you could see Syria in the Golan Heights. And the experience of being there is actually really amazing. At least it was at the time. What struck me is how many wars there were around that area. And so the story of Mary Magdalene, she was basically talking about remembrance and something that actually Protestants would enact more later in a very twisted way. And she talked about the fact that the serpent was not to be cursed, and that remembering who we are is where what people call salvation is at. She preserved the blood of Christ, or the blood of Jesus. And this is shout out to Conspiracy. That's where I ran into that. And it kind of reminded me, she anointed Christ for his return. And basically what she represented was an equal union between Christ and a feminine goddess or priestess. So it kind of reminds me of the story of Isis and Osiris, of Lilith and Adam, not the Dutch cheese. The Bible, but you're half Dutch. um, so I hadn't. Yes, what? No. Cat alert. The evening cat. Anyway. So what was this video about? Dumb fuckery in religion. In religious indoctrinations. Yeah. And psychic. psychic attacks that are trafficking campaigns. Somebody called it campaigns once. Keep calm and abolish MK Ultra. Um, yeah. So yeah. Anyway, the story for Mary Magdalene. Um, my experience running into that, it was like, oh, that actually makes it's kind of like returning the love for Christ, because that's kind of like, okay, now it's normal. Now, now it's not a trafficking dumb fuckery cult that curses sexuality and calls everybody a whore, but coerces them to be raped anyway, whether they are wed or not, and scares people that heaven would be their husband raping everybody. It's kind of like, hey, somewhere in every religion we have this, even Shiva and Shakti, we have this story of kind of like man and woman fall in love, have a blessed union, and dumb fucks interfere. Now, sometimes those dumb fucks are called God. And we have to contend with that. So, do we have a religion where the man and the woman, or the man and the man and the woman, I don't know, also combat the dumb fucks and win? Because, like, that would make a very interesting religion. Why was Mary Magdalene called a whore? I have no idea. I think because she slept with Jesus without being raped by him or something. No, please don't tell me that Christ raped Mary Magdalene, because I can't even with all the Me Too. That's enough spiritual warfare for today. It's kind of like, it's kind of like when you have a crush on a celebrity. It was like, was he in Epstein too? Well, structurally, either had to be a diddler or be in the list, or both. Structurally, but they cursed the serpent, so everything's fine now. And yeah. So that was the story that I learned today about Mary Magdalene. It's no wonder Romy fell. They're just a pack of dumb fucks. And they hate women, and they don't know what to do with sexuality, so they rape children. And and I'm like, what is this planet Earth thingy? What is this? What is going on with planet Earth? Um, I remember when I first came here. As I grew consciousness, I did not understand. First of all, it's kind of like I saw the Nazis before I saw the Nazis. And yeah, and there was a big earthquake that the neighbors next door didn't feel. A floor down, they didn't feel. My parents was thinking to jump with me in the cradle, and not really kill us both. It would just make us completely disabled. Maybe I would die, but I don't know. Um, and anyway, it was an earthquake, by the way, not long ago. I thought this was one of the weird curses that they make us. They make things shake. It's kind of weird. I think only Americans would understand me because they have haunted houses like. Oh god. American houses so haunted that they began to do that in Israel, so people had haunted houses anyway. Um, and so, yeah, I was just thinking about like what people make of something so, I don't know, like sensuality and so on. All the dumb fuckery they build on around that's fragmenting people's souls and trying to control humanity, and like it's so fucking useless, and it doesn't yield. So now we're caretaken for one video. Um, but yeah, I don't know what is this stupidity. But think about it, entire people learned Christianity. Christians never hearing about Mary Magdalene as anything about a whore. Then, like, people never learned about a woman who is not a whore, raped, temptress, or and usually then she would be saint. They were like they cannot they don't have a concept for a woman. Generations upon generations are built on this Madonna whore complex. And they can neither have monogamy nor non-monogamy that is happy and thriving. Either that or somebody doesn't know about something that's behind their backs. And then they find out and they feel so betrayed and so on. And then they go to church and they listen to stories about Christ and the whore. Same with the Jews. Same with Islam. Like, hey, if they wouldn't do spiritual warfare to try to make people religious and then traffic and rape them, nobody would be talking about that. Nobody would do a trauma timeline, slower astral, like, you know, people like, let's have some sushi and, who fucking cares? But then they do that dumb fuckery and they try to traffic people. So, in the name of religion, so people are like, I used to like Christ up until now. I thought nothing wrong of Jews. I'm like, they want to dress like a penguin, fine. That's okay. I have ancestors Jews, and and so It's kind of like those type of dumb fuckeries, they make people secular. Let's put it in a very delicate way. And then they talk about the Antichrist, and I'm like, that it doesn't matter. They're all trafficking scams. It's all names, it's all code names for traffickers. It's kind of like the new Hitler. Jesus. And I'm like, if people have a problem with what I say, then I don't know, abolish human trafficking, abolish spiritual warfare. That seems more like it. Like if what I say bothers you, then should be bothering you that I deal with people who try to traffic me for like several years, and at least since 2007. And I think that is more problematic. I mean, if somebody finds what they consider abomination more problematic than trafficking, then their God is no good. Or alternatively, they're doing something in the name of God that is abomination, which is justifying crimes against humanity, human trafficking, sex trafficking, under whichever setting, including marriage, in the name of some god or anti-god. The both are equally dumbfuckery. Like, none of that stuff is going to make her vagina less yeasty. Unless it's like, actually practicing embodied sensuality and willing consent and having compatibility and separating if it's not compatible and so on. Even the trafficker Andrew Tate says if women are abused, they become not women, they become more like men. And then he said sex with women is gay. I don't know the chronological order of that. But it's like, hey, if you traffic women, eventually it's gonna feel like gay sex. Now, if what you're looking for is gay sex, then what you're not looking for is trafficking, because then it would be the abusive gay partner. Um, and yeah, like when people are loyal to some mafia before they're loyal to themselves, then they cannot be, you know. And actually, I wrote something very poetic to Mspiracy. It was about, if Mary Magdalene was talking about remembrance, so I said, those that oppressed or called a whore, those that believe in the existence of a whore, basically lost faith in the existence of the self. And it's very true, because it's, modernly it's like the MK Ultra child trafficking and ritual satanic abuse, and they rape these people and then they call the child whore, even if it's a boy, and then um, what they intend is the loss of self. So they intend that the person will lose a sense of self, and that way they can further traffic them and puppeteer them and do all these mind control stuff and programming stuff. And Mary Magdalene is antidote to that, because she talks about remembrance and the Kundalini rise, which is a union of sacred femininity, sacred masculinity, regardless of the gender. So That is what I have to say about Mary Magdalene. And think about it, anything that tries to deprive people of a sense of self is probably not a good spiritual teaching. I mean, ego death is fine if a person is like full of ego, but if it is somehow all those ego deaths are somehow correlating with rapey experiences. So it's not ego death, it's just somebody trying to justify their dumb fuckeriness being a rapist in humiliating or humbling another person's ego, man or woman. And no, there isn't, wasn't, and never be setting that makes it fine, and everything that tries to normalize that crumbles into Gog Magog, where everything that it stands for is famous in its falling. Nobody remembers Pompeii. People remember the fall of Pompeii. Nobody cares about Rome. People remember the fall of Rome. If you ask outside of Judaism, you go to Wikipedia, what happened 3,000 years ago, you don't hear a thing about the United Kingdom of Israel. It's something to do with the Palestinians and the like. Because they united so that the Palestinians won't genocide them. So, like I said, if people don't like hearing that divine comedy, then all complaints to satanic ritual abuse, abolish satanic, keep calm and abolish satanic ritual abuse, MK Ultra and the likes, and I will just be too busy eating sushi and swimming, I don't know, in the Dead Sea or whatnot, or whatever, or something that's less salty. And once in a blue moon, making a talisman of some sort. Watching the sunrise, digging half moons, basically harming no one. Um, unless you are a dead cult dependent on slavery, expiring humanity's desire to humanity to be human, and so on and so forth. So the small lines. Yes, we have another video.